doing a little bit of work yesterday and was reading a police report and accident report, and I read it and got a feel for what the accident was like, and then I looked at the photos that our client had taken, and the accident report gave absolutely no indication of just the utter carnage that one of the vehicles didn't even look like a motor vehicle anymore. And so if a lot of times what that adjuster has is the insurance person has is the police report, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to show them, no, look, this was an extremely serious accident, or even if it's not an extremely serious where there's huge amounts of property damage, where that damage is, even if it's a little bit to your vehicle, can be vitally important in explaining, what your injuries are. So I'll just reiterate what you said about the photos. Everybody has a cell phone nowadays that can take pictures, and just about everybody. And so, take copious amounts of photos. And another thing about the police report I just wanted to add is always make sure that not only you, but all of your passengers are listed in the police report. I can't tell you the number of times where we've seen people have to go back and ask the police to amend the police report to add people who were injured, but who weren't listed in there. There's a lot going on, and it's easy for an officer to miss one or two people, or maybe just list the driver and not list the passengers. So the officers do a good job, but they need the help of people who are there on the scene to make sure that things get done right sometimes. And one of those things is just saying, hey, do you have everybody? And that'll take care of that.
No, that's a great point. Most definitely is that, attention to detail, because, officers are busy. They're concerned about, the flow of traffic that's happening following an accident. So making sure they list everybody who was, involved in the accident, is imperative, because the insurance company, if you're not on the accident report, 9 times out of 10, they're just going to take that report and say, sorry, Bob or Sally or Mary or, Frank are not listed on the accident report, so we're not going to consider them as being, a potential, party to this action. As we go through this list, if you'd like to give us a call, please feel free on the Super Talk call line at 888-808-8637, or you can always text us in at 601-879-4395 on the C Spire text line, kind of going through the 5 factors that have a direct impact on ultimately the value of your case. So number 3 that I have goes to recovery. I kind of wrote recovery, length of treatment, amount of medical bills. Those all go together. Needless to say, if you have, a severe injury that takes you 12 months to recover and your medical bills are more, it's certainly going to have traditionally a higher value than being in an accident, going to the emergency room, and that being your only treatment. And thankfully, within a matter of 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're back to playing tennis or fishing or hitting the golf ball or coaching little league, baseball or softball. So that has a big factor, on your case. And what's important to remember is your health is number one. In Mississippi, it gets to be real challenging because there's a lot of physicians, especially specialists, that don't want to see accident victims. They don't want to get involved because they are concerned that they may have to be deposed or they may have to go to trial and give testimony. So it really can limit, some Mississippians' ability to get the treatment they need. And they've only got one body. And so it's so important that you get the care and treatment that you need. So we're going to circle back to the 5 factors that we were talking about when it comes to the value of a case. So we stopped with recovery and length of treatment. And one that's really interesting that I wanted to touch upon is venue. Venue is a big case. There are 82 counties in Mississippi, And insurance companies have charts, have color-coded charts of those 82 counties. So we will talk about that in a second as we come back from this final break here on the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. Talking about the 5 factors that have a direct impact on the value of your case. 1 was liability, how it happened. 2 were your injuries. 3, kind of recovery, length of treatment, medical bills. 4, as we went into the break, is venue. Quickly talking about that, 82 counties in Mississippi, but the venue is different in each one of them. What I mean by that is it just has to do with the population of that particular county. So the insurance companies have color-coded maps of the counties of Mississippi and have green, red, and yellow. Green, they're going to say, are favorable to them. Those are ones that they view that the general population of that county is more conservative in nature and that historically the value of cases through jury verdicts have been less than some other counties. Yellow, they typically say, are moderate, ones that you can get a conservative, or a smaller verdict, but you could also get a larger verdict. And then, of course, the red counties, are the ones that they call their danger zone counties where they're really concerned about an excess verdict. So it's interesting, that you can, in the Jackson metro area, the insurance companies have Rankin County as being very favorable to them. They have Madison County kind of being moderate, and they have Hinds County being, very dangerous when it comes to having to try a case. But under Mississippi law, what's really cool is you have 2 choices of venue. If you have an accident, it can be the county in which the accident happened or the county in which the defendant, if you had to file a lawsuit, resides. So you can have a wreck in what the insurance company considers to be a favorable venue, but if that defendant who you would actually sue lives in a more moderate or more high risk, to use the insurance company's terms, venue, you can actually file it there. So, that is something that insurance companies, in all my years, I've had, lots and lots of settlement conferences with insurance adjusters face to face, across the state. And I laugh. They literally will pull out their map. They literally have that map out there and they'll go, oh, this happened in X county. And so they really are using that as a factor. So something to consider. And then really kind of the 5th and final factor that comes into play is the extraordinary factor. Was the defendant DUI? Was the defendant on their cell phone? Is there something that, jumps that to another level as to the value of a case? And so, again, that's something that's really important that Doug talked about when you're, at the scene. You have a cell phone. If the wreck happens and you're both able to get out of your car and the person who hit you says, I'm so sorry, I was on my cell phone, I didn't see you stopped, or I was changing the radio station, or I had, dropped a pen. Those are things to note accordingly so that ultimately, you can relay that information to law enforcement. And then another big factor, so those are the 5. Direct impact. Any thoughts real quick? We only got a couple minutes, Doug, but any thoughts on those 5 factors?
I've always told people the best way to help us in their legal case is to help themselves to get better, and the 2 go hand in hand. One of the things I see a lot of are that the insurance companies argue about are gaps in treatment. Mm-hmm. So what you want to try to do is minimize times between times that you, if you're having chiropractic care, times between a set of visits, you might be taking a break. Well, that break is going to be, if it goes on too long, going to be used by the insurance company. Say, see, he was okay then. We're not going to consider what happened afterwards. So consistency in treatment, and I've had a lot of doctors to say people who go consistently and who are consistent in their treatment, are going to get a better outcome. So you get a better outcome medically, and you better get a better outcome legally if you try to minimize those gaps in your treatment.
Absolutely. And the other thing we would encourage, and kind of goes with Ronnie was saying he had full coverage, is look at your insurance policy. Make sure you have the coverages you think you have. I actually saw the statistic today